I'll quickly say, before I start talking about Côte d'Azur, relative to that last public hearing, my mother has a house on Time Street 2 blocks down, and I stay there quite a bit, and I agree that the signal interchange would be, and also a licensed civil engineer in Florida, and I agree that the signal interchange would be a lot better solution from my uneducated opinion about it. I'm here to talk to you about a subdivision that I am the Owners Association president. It's called Côte d'Azur, and it's on 30A near Cafe 30A. Does everybody know roughly where that is? I purchased the lot in 2003. My wife and I were planning on building a house there, and we liked the architectural plans for that community. I have owned beach property here in South Walton for 20 years, and have this property and 2 others in Grayton and in Seagrove. Recently, a builder purchased one of the lots in Côte d'Azur, and he was ready to build a house on that lot. When he went to pull his permits, he had we discovered that there's a large underground utility problem with the subdivision. Regional Utilities came out, did a laundry list of things for us to have to fix before he could build a house on the lot. That's really what I'm here to discuss. There's some other owners here that are with me, and Mr. Hester is here.
Sir, I'm having a difficult time facing that
I'm
way.
sorry. Mr. Hester is here. He owns one of the lots, and he has prepared something he'd like to say. I'd like to ask him to...
Sir, you need to address the board.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just going to ask him to come
Mr.
up.
Hester, he raised his hand if he'd like to be recognized.
Yes. Can he be recognized?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, come forward.
Thank you. My name is Benton Hester. I'd like to thank you, commissioners, to even consider this matter. We own a lot in Côte d'Azur. Bought it in 2009, and it appeared that development had been fully signed off on by Walton County as a parcel ID and was taxed as vacant residential. The sewer and water taps are present on the lots, and our lot was advertised as water and sewer tap paid, and included a letter from Regional Utilities stating that sewer tap fee has been paid, and this excludes any additional impact fees, deposits, or meter charges that may be required at the time of the building permit being issued. Now, subsequent to that, we understand that apparently there was not a final inspection done on the utility system. They say that it was never inspected and needs to be brought up to current standards at great expense. In phone conversations, I understand from Walton County that the performance bonds or surety bonds that were posted to guarantee this sort of thing to happen have lapsed, and the developer is nowhere to be found. Unfortunately, these lots are unbuildable as they are. The current owners are left sort of holding the bag. Property taxes, they went up this year, surprisingly, for an unbuildable lot. I think it's pretty clear that Côte d'Azur should have never been signed off by whoever signed off at Walton County at the time, and those performance bonds should not have been released before Regional Utilities had performed their final inspection to verify everything had been done according to code. I've spoken with a couple of county employees, and there have been several sort of excuses offered up, and one was a lot went on during the boom, and I think we all know that. And another one was I wasn't here then, and that may be true as well. My personal favorite was that it was a Wild West then, and I couldn't disagree more, because it wasn't a Wild West. There were policies and procedures and oversights that were in place at the time. There were bonds posted, and somehow it just slipped through the cracks. I'm afraid this is the kind of thing that holds back the recovery of the South Walton real estate market. It discourages, we can't build a house, so we're not going to hire a construction crew. So you don't have those jobs. And, the other question is, why would an investor come here and follow in our footsteps and find out that this, or perhaps other subdivisions like this, are unbuildable just because something didn't quite happen right at a certain point and these performance bonds have been released? I came tonight to ask the commission to look into this and see if there's some way that Walton County and regional utilities, or both, can basically make good on what should have happened before the developer walked away and the performance bonds were.
And the plat was recorded, correct?
Exactly.
It's
Yes,
got a
ma'am.
recorded plat.
Commissioner, I met with Jim Harmon actually on another issue this morning, and this was on the agenda. It came up, and he frankly had not looked at great depth at it, but his recollection was that there was an engineering certificate or engineering sign-off by an engineer on the water and sewer that the county obviously relied on when they issued their final development order and recorded the plat. So I asked him, obviously this was this morning, but I asked him if he could just find that and pull it and let's see who the engineer was, because obviously if they signed off and the county relied on that, which they always do, then that's the person we need to start talking to, is the engineering firm that signed off on this obvious water and sewer problems. One of the other things that he pointed out to me was, and I, again, speaking out of very little knowledge here, but one of the things he pointed out to me was that that regional utilities no longer accept privately maintained lift stations, and haven't for 4 or 5 years now. And this was one of those privately maintained lift stations, and it's probably not one that meets their current requirements. It might have met their requirements in 2004, but may not now. So what I would ask Mr. Hester and these fine folks to do is let me get a hold of Mr. Harmon in some more detail, take a look at the file, let's find out who the engineer was and work backwards and see if we can't find you a better solution other than just saying it's your problem.
Sure, because this does create a lot of uncertainty for other people that are interested in buying lots and subdivisions in South Walton, because the public needs a certain amount of.
And it may be, I need to
confidence.
tell the commission and you that the engineer is the one that's on the hook, not these folks, because they signed off, but the engineer approved the plan and signed
Sure.
off.
All right, I'll return to Sid.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Only thing I would like to add, I'll keep it short, but this will be better for the county if we can get the subdivision going. And it will increase your tax revenue. I'm sure I have to tell you that, you know that. So we would ask that you please seriously consider fixing our, I think as I agree with the rest of our owners, it's the right thing to do. So any questions, can I entertain any? We have estimates for cost. The original guy that did the underground utility work was a contractor called Young's. And he's close by, and I've talked with him, got an estimate for him to fix it, and it was like $48,000. I included that in the documents that I submitted.
Everything could be fixed for $48,000, you said?
Yeah, there was a Shellco has to come put in some special power requirements, and that was estimated at maybe $5,000 or $6,000. But the work itself to fix the lift station, etc., was $48,000.
Okay.
So, but regional utilities might be able to do it a lot more easier. Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, my office will we'll work with Mark, and then we'll be in contact with y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
John and Jennifer, we got Stick. Anyone here?
Commissioners, if they're not here, I will tell you that we've had contact with the check, and basically all they're requesting us to do is to enter into a license agreement with them to allow them to plant some vegetation on property actually owned by or controlled by the county for due nourishment. They've got approval from DEP to do it, but they need the county's license to go onto the property and actually do the planting. And I was just looking for you guys to give me direction to say yes, to go forward and do that, if that's okay.
Any questions?
Is there any cons to it? I mean,
No, ma'am, not from the county's perspective. All we're doing is asking to let them do what they've been allowed to do by DEP, essentially.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I
I mean,
think
need a motion or?
It would be helpful to have a motion.
I'll motion that we do whatever it was that you said.
Enter into the licensing.
Yeah.
Licensing.
Second.
You second?
Yeah.
Okay, have a motion second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next item, Commissioner Meadows. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Do we have any other public comment?
That's later on, it's down. Thanks, Ann.
Yes.
It's at the end.
Okay. First thing is that Vivian Shamel and I met with the Regional Planning Council representatives on the issue of the feasibility study for a tram service on County Road 30A. And we sat down with them. We don't have real positive news to report on that. They did say that they did a feasibility study over, I think, in Santa Rosa County or somewhere else, and that feasibility study cost them $75,000 to $100,000, and that they looked at what we were trying to do, and their comments were that we didn't really have the urbanized areas that we needed to really, I think, meet the feasibility for funding for a tram service. Would you add anything to that, Vivian?
No, that's pretty much what.
They did, let me add too, they did say that the other mechanism to do this is how Bay County did it, because we asked them how they did their trolley system over there. They formed a CRA, Community Redevelopment Agency, and they formed that, and then they took the tax incremental financing and financed lanes and shelters and such for their trolleys, and that's how they did it. So that is another mechanism, but the feasibility study, they seem to think that wouldn't even be worth us paying for it because we just didn't have enough urbanized area in this location. I don't know, can he say anything? Can he say something?
Yes, anybody like to speak? Yes, sir.
Thomas Stein, I live here in Santa Rosa Beach. Something needs to happen. Look, I'm a member of the TPO, I've dealt with the West Florida Regional Planning, and I attended some of these meetings. The cost of the feasibility study is $75,000. West Florida Regional Planning is willing to pay half of that cost. Without doing the study, we're not going to get any federal or state funding. The study is an essential first step. And we just went round and round about the roundabout versus the signalization. We may be able to temporarily improve an intersection. We may be able to temporarily improve all the intersections. But sooner or later, we have to face the music that 30A is a two-lane road. It only can handle so many vehicles. And sooner or later, you're going to have to put more people in fewer vehicles. We have to get going on public transit. We can't keep kicking it down the road. The feasibility study's there. West Florida suggests we do it. They want the county to put some money into it so that the county takes the results seriously. I strongly urge you to make a step.
Vivian, do you want to make a comment?
And Tom, I'd be happy to have you join me here. I think basically what I got from the conversation that we had with the two representatives from WFRPC was that because we didn't have the urbanized areas, that they wouldn't be able to come up with the funding or of it. I think that it would basically fall on the county.
Yeah.
And unless we looked at a larger area where we connected the urbanized areas, being Panama City Beach, to Destin. I think that was, the federal funding, any federal funding or.
So it would have to be a regional approach.
But they did then mention the CRAs, and that's basically for blighted areas, but the traffic congestion that was in Bay County was considered blight, and therefore they were able to establish that area, and I think that's something we can definitely take a look at. Just briefly, CRA is a dependent special district in which any future increases in property values are set aside to support economic development projects within that district. So that is something
That's something that, you know, we could look at.
But
Are you looking for direction, Commissioner Meadows?
I'm not quite sure what I'm looking for at this point. I think that, I mean, we said that we would talk to them about this, and I got the same thing that Vivian got. They kind of said, well, you know, we've already done one of these, it cost us around $100,000, and, you know, if you'll pay for it, we'll do it, but we would suggest that it's really not going to be feasible because you don't have the urbanized areas. And that was directly what they told us. I don't know, you know, Tom, sounds like they told you something different.
I read the study, it was a $90,000 study they did in Santa Rosa County, and it's a vastly different situation. There it's permanent residence, it's not tourist transit, and that's what we need here. But West Florida's pretty flexible, and I believe that a study could be constructed, a framework could be constructed that would result in a study that would be beneficial to establishing public transit.
So I guess the question is, does the board want to pay for a feasibility study to study tram trolley service in South Walton, or all of, what are we talking about, South Walton?
We're just initially talking
South
about
Walton.
30A.
So I guess that's the question, is do we want to look at this during the budget season and kind of think about it, talk about it then, when we do the budget?
I think that if we're going to spend the money, that especially since it's not in this year's budget, it would have to go through the scrub process. I would ask, as we did last time, the very first things that were brought to us was very, very broad, with no business plan. And I know you want to have this study to do your business plan, but it just is. We want something and it's money.
I really don't have a business plan. Look, I'm
And
70 years old.
that's
I'm
what
not
makes it
about to
difficult.
start the bus system.
But that's what makes it difficult for us to say, let's spend money to go for a plan that we don't even know what it is we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, there was just a little difference. Tom was on a little different page, I think, than the other entity that brought forward their plan. I think Tom's looking at a little bit broader area, but we do need to, you know, have some kind of idea of what we want to do if the county wants to be involved at all in this.
I guess the bottom line is, do we have enough interest to kind of move forward on anything having to do with, you know?
I still tend to say it's a private enterprise thing. I guess, I mean, that's kind of how I feel.
And I agree with what you're saying, but I would just suggest to the chairman that staff be directed during budget scrubs to consider whether or not this is something that the county should consider funding. And that way you're going to have a lot of inputs as to what to do and where
There's
to
not
go.
enough information, that's what I'm saying.
But I mean, you can give it consideration. The scrubs are coming up. They'll be at the end of May, first part of June. And by that time, perhaps there'll be enough information that the people involved in that with making recommendations to the board as to where to spend the ad valorem tax dollars. Because that's what you're talking about, is ad valorem tax dollars being spent on this, is what they would recommend.
Let me make just one last statement. What I'm suggesting is that public transit is inevitable, okay? You can delay it for a while, but the road is so congested that sooner or later it's going to be a viable possibility. If you look around at other communities, public transit eventually happens. To not spend $37,000 or even $75,000 at this point is putting your head in the sand and hoping that some rich guy's going to come in and open public or start
Mr.
transit.
Stein, I'm not saying put our heads in the sand. I've just requested the chairman to consider directing the people during the budget scrubs to give it consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on my list is the discussion of implementing a business license program, and I was corrected on this by Mr. Corey Godwin, who says it's now called a business tax receipt, and typically the tax collector's office would collect it. But these are just some reasons that we might want to take a look at a business license or business tax receipt program in Walton County. mainly, I think, for economic development purposes. And then, of course, the list kind of goes on and on about the benefits of this. Mr. Godwin was kind enough to run some numbers out, and we took a look at it. And I think what needs to happen is the board needs to decide if they are interested in looking into it and considering it. And then we would, there would be a series of steps that would have to be taken, but it would go through a long process, and the first collections would be January 2014. And so it would take about a year to get through the process. But the benefits for economic development and research, data analysis and all that, and the fire and safety, because we really right now have no idea what we have here. We don't know how many employees we have. We don't know what their skill levels are, what they're trained to do. We don't know. There's a sales tax revenue that's currently not being collected. We have some businesses that are legitimate. They've gone the extra mile to pay the fees to be in the right location with the right land use. They're doing it right. And then we have other people coming in and kind of piggybacking on all of this so it makes competition difficult for the legitimate businesses. But the reason I'm bringing this to you tonight is because it just kept popping up over and over again in a lot of the things that we were trying to do as far as economic development. So I thought that at this point I would just roll it out and see how much interest there is in proceeding forward with workshopping it, looking at it, maybe having an ordinance drafted, or get someone, Okaloosa's ordinance or Bay's ordinance, or there's thousands of them already written.
Commissioner Meadows, I had heard you speak of this at the public meeting we had, and other occasions when I saw that on the agenda. My little pea brain remembered that Ken Little, I believe in 2002, was directed by the board at that time to look into occupational license. So I did some scrounging and just have, if we're going to go forward with this, I have some information from that time.
Okay.
I think they even did a draft ordinance and all, so I just made copies for everybody so that maybe you could start from there and go forward. So I just happened, I called Ken and knew where he put it, and I pulled it for you. So I think it's worth looking into. One of the questions that you and I were asked at our public meeting was, is it a way for us to shut down these monster houses? I believe, and of course we'll have to do some research in the statutes, but someone told me today that, we can't pull a person's license and put them out of business. I guess Department of Regulation, but I was hoping that would be the case. Yeah. Nothing's that easy. But, to legally what we can and can't do. But I think it's certainly worth having some public hearings on it.
Commissioners, if you're inclined to do it, what I'll ask you to do is task me to work with Corey, because we'll have to put together a timeline and various other things to even.
Corey's already done a lot of the legwork on it. If
there's a consensus for us to explore this, I would ask you to let me do that.
Is there a consensus? I'm obviously proposing it, so.
I will take the big advantage from the legal standpoint. It is land use. In an existing building that has nothing in it today, somebody comes in and moves a business in there that may or may not meet the land use category. We have no way of knowing that until many times long after they're there and start their business.
And the fire and safety, they go in and they thought it was a warehouse, and it's a restaurant.
So are you making a motion, ma'am, that we?
Well, yes, I would like to make a motion that he works with Mr. Godwin and maybe brings us back something, and then we take a look at it and go from there. Is everybody kind of agreeable with that?
Yeah, I'll consider that direction. Thank you.
Is that okay with you? Okay, and then the third thing is, let's see, Mimi Drew mentioned at the Restore workshop, the consortium workshop the other day, that there would be a new list of projects, NERDA projects coming out in May. And I've been meeting with Anita Page, and we've been talking about the idea that we need to hone in on our NERDA list and kind of get our priorities, 1, 2, 3, whatever we do, maybe a workshop or a presentation, something to that effect, so that we can start permitting some of the, number 1, 2, and 3, maybe initiatives that we have, that we can start permitting them with DEP, get those balls, get that rolling. So I am proposing that we schedule a workshop to talk about NERDA, our projects, how we're going to prioritize them, and which projects we want to put money toward to get permits. I know that some of the reef projects we've already hired Taylor Engineering, but I think we need to regroup on this and at least talk about it in a public setting. So would anybody be interested in having a workshop?
Commissioner, did you want, is that a workshop you want DEP staff to attend also?
No, I think this would just be the county priority list and our strategies for moving forward on it. And there was some discussion. A lot of these other places have hired consultants to technical people, scientists, engineering firms, such, to run the technical parts of all these, having to do with NERDA, restore, anything having to do with the environment. And that's one suggestion as well. Is there's actually a scope of services out there right now that they're using that we could put out for RFP or RFQ, whichever one it is, to get someone in the technical field, because all of this apparently is going to go through DEP, it looks like to me. The state agencies, the DEP is going to be probably in charge of. So that's all I'll say, but are we interested in moving forward on that? I think we need to, because, go ahead.
We can certainly have an update. I've been working with Billy. Billy McKee is our resident expert in environmental issues, and we are actually working with Mimi to bring her over here to talk to us in Walton County.
Okay, good.
I've also talked to Darryl Boudreau, and hopefully get the workshop that we were going to hold started again. We're going to hopefully do that in the next couple of weeks. So, anything we do is a plus as far as I'm concerned to get moving on these. We are going to have to make a decision soon. We're going to have to spend some money, as the old feller said, to make money. We're going to have to spend money on permitting and design and that sort of thing, especially with our dusty roads and with our stormwater. We're going to have to spend money up front. We will get it back, but we're going to have to spend, and we need to do it as soon as possible.
We are. So we need to find out which projects we think really have a chance of getting approved, and go and select those, I think, and hone in on those, and then do what we need to do to get those.
And as you heard the other day, it is paramount that we join together as many projects as we can. It makes us stronger in numbers. So I'm all about, if you want to have a workshop before a meeting or whatever, to go forward. I'm ready, and I'll have some more information by then on some of the other stuff.
Yeah, I'd like to have a workshop that we would get our NERDA projects, in our ducks in a row on our NERDA project, which is just one small element of the whole picture. But get our ducks in a row, and then have Billy McKee and those guys, but make some decisions here as far as funding some upfront cost to get these ready.
You can do it in 2 weeks, you want to wait till
Well,
next
it's
special
gonna have
meeting?
to be made.
The schedule's filling up.
I know.
I just plan on sleeping if y'all.
Don't have to be around May then.
Is May too late for you?
May or something.
Well, no, because we're almost, let's
Yeah,
see.
we're filling up. Where's Mr. King?
What do y'all have any, could y'all weigh in on this, Anita?
I didn't expect phase 3 to come quite so quickly. As May, I was hoping that we'd have a little more time to get organized. It sounds like what I hear you saying is Mimi Drew saying that they're going to go ahead and either start looking or announce the phase 3 project.
She said that they're going to do, how did she put it?
They're taking projects now, but they
Yeah.
admit that they're just taking them.
She said they're gonna-
Because we still have no criteria, we have no guideline, on the restore money. Now, the NERDA projects, I asked the question, I said, when can we, expect this to move? And it did indicate on the NERDA projects that are out there now, that they already have, within the next 60 days.
She said May. She said next month we're making another selection.
Yeah.
So
Okay, that's what I was just
Yes.
asking.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
I'm shocked that it's so soon,
Yes.
because they just now announced the phase 2 selections. That's a
Well,
short
that's
amount
what
of
she
She says
time.
they're moving them,
that's what she
Yeah.
said.
because I think they're getting a lot of pressure from
Yeah.
23 counties to move. So she said she thought in 60 days, or 60 to 90 days, that the third wave, yes,
Then I think it's really, because NERDA will go on for years.
yes, yeah.
And projects will come in later on down the line as issues are identified and so forth. So the question is the early restoration funds and going, making sure we're in as strong a position as possible when they start making their selection, that Walton County has some basically ready projects in the hopper. Because that's what they're looking for early restoration, so BP can have a ribbon cutting ceremony, get their credits and, and so forth. So if this is happening in May, we just got to look at the county NERDA list and look at realistically how quickly different projects can be done. And some of the longer,
And
some
they've
of
been
the,
working, I believe Bill's not here, but I believe they have been, yes, he is, yet they have been working on these projects and having them shovel ready, haven't you, Bill?
Could we look at them at the April 23rd meeting, just put it on the agenda?
I don't see why not.
So that at least we could talk about it, and if we,
Let's put it on the 23rd meeting.
put it on the agenda so. that we
is the
can-
research done, is the science done, is the
Well,
paperwork
that's
done, or
what
are
we'll
they,
discuss on
are they ready to go?
Yeah.
The
We
projects are
discuss that on-
submitted, they're complete packages, they will from time to time ask us for additional information. We have provided some of that supplemental information in the past. Right now, I'm not sure what a shovel-ready project would be.
Is it,
There's
or do we have any projects that are permitted?
Well,
Like, are the reef projects, do we have
two of
permits?
the reef project actually was much larger than what we got what we requested funding for permitting for. We actually only got funding to permit 2 reef sites. We asked for much more than that. And that is in the process. It's not complete. Now, if the board wanted to fund more reef permits, now they did.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes, there's not a lot of those that, for instance, if you want to acquire property, that doesn't necessarily require permitting. So there's things in there that we wouldn't require permitting for.
Right. Well, let me add one thing too. We had a presentation today at the TDC from a man who lives here in town, Andy McAlexander, about placing reefs closer into shore, I think 18 of them, and creating oyster beds in the bay. And the permitting on that, upfront permitting on that would, would get them ready to do that project as soon as, but that would require us to come up with some money, have Taylor Engineering, whoever, do the permitting, and that would take some time. So that's the kind of thing I think I'm talking about is
They never really established, I haven't gotten an answer, a matter-of-fact answer out of Lee Emerson or Mimi Drew as to whether or not we actually had to have a permit or not in order to be in the process.
Yeah, but it does help, because once they start rolling out the money, they're gonna go, okay, they've already got the permits.
And in the reef program, the reef projects, we had a number of snorkel reef projects that we wanted to do, which I believe Andy had included in what he presented to TDC today.
Yeah.
I've talked to him.
Yeah.
So our projects are very similar. His might have had just a little bit more.
He said the difference in those projects were that ours, Walton County's, were 6-7 miles out.
We have some that are a few
And
miles
his
out.
were within snorkeling,
Right.
YOLO boarding, snorkeling. I mean, would be a tourist destination where you wouldn't have to have a
And
boat.
those definitely would require permitting, and they are in our package already. We just didn't get funding to go for permitting for
Okay.
those.
So
Yeah.
But I guess here's my question. If a phase 3 selection is going to be made shortly, what is Walton County emphasizing to the trustees? Are they emphasizing 1 project, 2 projects, 3 projects for phase 3? Or what are they emphasizing to the trustees? And kind of what's the plan out of 15, 20 projects or whatever? I mean, what's the plan? What's long-term? What's short-term? What do we really want to focus on and go after? in the early phases? What do we want to hold off until, NERDA, or maybe even later phases of early restoration? What's the, I guess that's what I see like Escambia doing, for example, where they got this little schedule and they're just marching down their schedule with their projects.
Will you have all this ready for us on the 23rd?
I'll do my best. The board did prioritize 5 projects. Now, how the NERDA trustees view that, I don't know. They asked us to do that.
Let's look at the 5 projects and what we have on those 5 projects and see if there's anything else we could do to maybe move that along. On the 23rd. That's all I have. I think that
Speaking of restoration, just happened to have in my hand.
the bill.
The bill. Yeah, the bill in my hand. We initially, when we formed the Gulf Consortium and hired people to work with us, Doug Darling and all, and FAC has been helping us, we put some upfront seed money. Disproportionate counties put in more money because we will be getting 75% of whatever the funding is. If it's $10 million, we get 75% of that. So we put in more to begin with. We are within a month of running out of that first proportion of money, and I have been watching the budget, and they've done an excellent job of taking care and making sure that we're not wasting our funds. Well, that being said, we have another bill to run us through September, and by then the money from Transocean should hit the Gulf Consortium, and we'll have money from then on to run it without going to the counties. But with that being said, we have a proportionate share of the Gulf Consortium for $7,199. I'd like to make the motion that we pay this bill to the Gulf Consortium.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
It's okay, the board, like they said,
Yes, sir.
As a what?
Contingency funds.
May not be necessary. You may have other current charges available in the budget line item to do it. I would suggest using contingency only when you've used up those other funds, and then you need to go to contingency.
2 other things I will give you. I won't do it tonight because we're running short of time. I did attend the Small County Coalition meeting last Wednesday, of which I'm a board member. I'll give you an update on that at our next meeting. And also ask for your consideration, and I'll get my assistant to make copies, and we can do this at the next meeting. On April the 2nd, 1513, Spanish explorer Juan Ponce de Leon landed on the east coast of Florida. This is our 500th year. This is our anniversary of celebrating the state of Florida, and they're doing a project called Viva Florida, and would like for all counties to pass a resolution and become involved in our history. So at the next meeting, with your permission, I will bring back and we have a Viva Florida 500 week from Rick Scott. Anyway, a proclamation so that maybe we can consider passing it and being part of the celebration of the 500th anniversary of the state of Florida. And that's all I have.
Very quickly, last week we had the opportunity to be in Tallahassee. We met with Senator Gates, Representative Coley, and Representative Petronas. And Senator Gates has done a big favor in putting into the Senate's version of the budget $3 million for the Mossy Head Waterworks, $1.4 million for Mossy Head Industrial Park Infrastructure, and $500,000 for the Coastal Dune Lakes Environmental Assessment. We're working closely with Representatives Coley and Petronas to try and get the House version to accommodate that too, but that could really help spur the economic development, especially in the North End, and we thank Senator Gates for that effort.
Amen.
Commissioner Chapman?
No.
Public comment? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Bob Hudson, for the record. I'm here today, or tonight, I should say, because I attended the TDC meeting this morning and asked a question, and the TDC director, attorney, asked me to ask you these questions, and so that's why I'm here. I became aware that a contract was signed with a company called Sandman to clean some beaches on the southern part of the western part of the county, particularly on, I think, about 3 pieces of private property. I understand why people said we were doing that, that it was an emergency situation, and that we had health and safety issues in terms of trash being on the beach. My questions are not with that aspect of it. My questions are with the process that went through, because the TDC director was out of town at that point in time. And my understanding is a private property owner called the county and asked for some assistance. The cleanup crew said they couldn't handle it. And I was told this morning that the then county administrator directed the contract to be signed and TDC funds to be expended. And I'm wondering, as a owner of property here and a person that does pay bed taxes, believe it or not, how that transpired.
Let me try to answer part of that. Mr. Hatfield contacted me, and forgive me, I will not remember dates, and said that he had been contacted by someone, I don't remember who, that during the spring break, might have been the first week of spring break.
I think it was. I think a newspaper picture or something of that nature prompted some people to get very interested in it.
There were folks using one of the public accesses and then going across into private property. The folks cleaning up the beach couldn't handle the amount of trash that was being left every night. He asked me point blank, did he have the authority to do something on an emergency basis to assist not only the public beach area cleanup, but maybe go onto the private property around the public beach cleanup. And, you know, of course, my answer was to him, yes, as long as there's health and safety concerns, and that the money that he spends is within his discretion, as you know, as a county administrator has or division director has. I was not aware, and that it came out of TDC funds. I had no idea about that. But as long as you know he's within his discretion in terms of the amount of money that's being spent, I think the question was the use of a particular kind of machinery actually that picks up this trash very efficiently. And so when he asked me that question, I told him yes, to the extent that as long as it's a health and safety issue and it's within his discretion. I was not aware they were going to use TDC funds for that. And if that's the case, I would recommend to the board they replace those funds, because I don't know that's the proper function of TDC.
Mark, the contract was directed to be signed by the then county administrator from the TDC. And I kind of have a problem with the county administrator encumbering funds of the TDC.
I tend to agree with you.
Okay.
And if that's the case, we'll need to.
So I'm also interested in the processes. I, as a private property owner, can I pick up the phone and call and say, I've got trash and I can't get it cleaned up, and are y'all going to come clean it up for me? And I'm making that point for the simple reason that I think we have to have a process in place to deal with those issues. There was no money in the TDC budget that was initially proposed this morning to do something of that nature, and I think they did defer approving or recommending a budget to the BCC tonight. But I think you're kind of looking into an area where you're going on to some of the people that own property down there pay this same company to clean up.
Yeah, yes, sir.
They're paying, and yet tax dollars are now. I see what you say. You say, okay, it should be ad valorem taxes. Now you got me even more interested, because why am I paying to clean up?
Let me be clear. The problem was caused because there was a public beach access where so many people were using it and spending on private property. To me, that's different than somebody who has an issue on property that the public access didn't cause. And I may be saying that clearly, but the problem on the private property was caused because the people were using the public beach access and leaving trash on the private property. That's the difference legally in my opinion.
And I saw a picture, and we're not talking about, 3 or 4 kids. We're talking close to 2,000 to 3,000 more people in one area. I happened to be sent a picture of it, I saw it. I wouldn't, Ms. Harris is sitting out in the audience, I wouldn't expect her to take on the liability or the whatever for all these people that come and destroy her property when she didn't invite them there, or any other, is it her responsibility to pay thousands of dollars for destruction that she didn't cause or ask for? Mr. Hatfield.
I'm beginning to question when you say destruction. I think there was litter that was on the beach.
There's litter.
But I will tell you, there are other people that paid that, and some of the same people that you're talking about that didn't do anything, that this was a spillover, rented facilities to those same people that are there. And so I think you need to replace those funds. I'm serious. I don't think TDC dollars should be used for that purpose. The greater subject is how do we address this issue? Because the TDC's thing this morning seemed to revolve around, well, it's a problem and we're going to have to start dealing with it. So if you do have Sandestin that cleans their beach or whatever, or all of these other key areas that clean their own beach, all of a sudden, I can't pay it and the county's going to pay it, you're going to see everybody bail out of the business of keeping their beaches clean. So I think someone needs to truly look at the legality of this issue and how we would address it. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be done. I'm just saying I think we need to have a policy that would address that in a more equitable. And Mark, I have the email trail. I know what you said, and I know,
And more systematic, I think, is what you're looking for.
And it's been our recommendation that we have perhaps a workshop or an end of the spring season, whatever, to discuss what we did right and what we did wrong and what we can do better. And I think this is perfectly within that conversation, because it's going to happen to everybody along the beach as more and more of these, if we can't figure out how to put up a fence, to keep these people from Okaloosa and Bay County coming over and destroying. And you're right, it's not right for the Walton County taxpayer to pay it. We're not getting any money. It's not right for the people to pay it. But the fact is, it's happening. So what the heck do we do about it? We can't ignore it. So I think that should be part of the discussion of how we go forward with spring break.
Yeah. Am I to understand we're going to replace those funds?
I said they asked to tell me to look into it, and I'll let you.
Thank you, Mark.
I will make that motion.
Second.
Well, we don't have to.
Extra.
No, we do it anyway.
Yeah, because we're talking money, yes.
You're talking money.
Yeah.
You have a motion and second.
I'm going to say all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
One other item that came up, and there's been a lot of talk in the community, and I don't want to go into any of the details. I have public records, and I know that some people find it titillating or whatever it happens to be, and that's not my issue, and that's not the Walton County taxpayers' issue. Our issue is there were some items in one of those investigations that led to statements that were signed by employees that said that records had been dumped from computers. And that bothers me as a person who believes in public records and access and doing those things. And it's my sincere hope that those things that there are some things there I don't want to touch, Mark, or board, I don't. But I do think there are some things that this board needs to look at that were stated within those statements from employees, and I'm not naming names and calling places or all that other stuff. And then the same thing would be true with, my understanding is, on the county administrator. I sincerely do not believe that just because that man resigned, that we can drop any kind of investigation into the charges that were made or allegations that were made or whatever. And it's my sincere hope that I understand that y'all had appointed or we're going to hire somebody to
Let me
do
do
it?
both issues. The first one, we have closed the initial investigation. I'm talking with Ms. McGinnis and Mr. Bearden about the possibility of the second investigation. Actually, I think we've decided to reopen is not the right word, open a new investigation. The question is how we're going to do that. Are we going to do it the same way with the same folks, or are we going to go outside? I haven't made that call yet. I'm hoping. Had a few things come up in the last couple of weeks, so I'm
Yes,
hoping to
I
make that call this week, frankly, and get that started. The second thing is, no, there will be there is today, as of Friday, an investigation started on the allegations that you discussed in the second half of your comment. And it will be completed. There will be a report, and the report will be issued to the commission. The way I understand it, and I say this with some trepidation, because the way I understand it is the allegations, the complainants, and the records associated with the investigation remain confidential until the report is issued, similar to the
Correct.
TDC.
I'm not even interested in all of that. I'm interested in did we do it and
will
did
be
we
done.
miss it?
And for reasons, for one reason, I'm choosing to go outside of the Human Resources Department because the person being investigated is the boss of that department, and that would present a difficulty, if not a conflict. So I've engaged someone outside of the county to conduct that investigation.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Commissioner.
Thank you. Ms. Harris?
I think y'all can hear me without the mic, but at the TDC meeting this morning, I was shocked that there were no TDC people here that really did give the full report. So the TDC spent a whole day planning their budget and their strategic plan. And today, when the TDC council met, they could not even get a motion to pass the budget that they'd spent the whole day on. They did pass the strategic plan, but they did not pass their budget. Now, I think Mr. Sunday will be great to come part-time to help with the TDC, but we have to have a budget by May. We have to go through the whole thing. And I would like for Cindy to pick, or y'all to pick a couple of volunteers to help with that process, because obviously the TDC council could not even approve the budget they spent a whole day doing, much less just get a motion to approve it, to discuss it. So that has to be corrected. I'm sure all y'all didn't know that. The second thing is, I think Art Miller would be glad to work on it. But he'd already volunteered. And I know you would be glad to work on it with them. But we need some help on the TDC budget. The second thing was, when the council was asked today, did anyone on that council know that $500 a day was spent to clean Private Beach? They were in shock. Not one of them knew that a contract had been signed to do that, or that the county had decided to do that. Now, after the meeting, $500 a day, the answer from Michelle Ray at that meeting was, oh, we have a contract, but we hadn't written the check yet. Now, I'm sorry, just not writing the check. The TDC signed a contract to clean Private Beach for $500 a day. That can't happen. That beach has to be cleaned. So does every Pompano Joe's has to be cleaned. I pay the sandman, I pay him $500 a week to clean my beach, so I don't mind paying. But the public beaches have to stay clean. The private beach, everybody's saying Destin is a private beach, which gets tons of public people at their beach. It's wall to wall. We all laugh and say butt to butt and belly to belly on that beach. It's tons of trash. They pay the sandman to clean every day. They also pay the sandman to pick up their garbage. Now, I was told at the end of the meeting by the TDC attorney that a commissioner, and I haven't had time to ask Ms. Meadows yet, but a commissioner, Mr. Pridgeon was out of town, and a commissioner said they made an executive decision that that contract that that was the thing to do. Now, I'm asking each one of you, did any of you make the statement to the people that own Wellstel, which is a private restaurant that serves alcohol that attracts the public? We can't get into the mess Okaloosa got in, where we are spending TDC bed tax money to clean private beach. And nobody knows about it until somebody happens to tell it and a public records request is done. These are the things that need to be not in the dark, but in the sunshine. So did any commissioner here say that Mr. Pridgeon was out of town and they were going to make an executive decision that that beach be cleaned?
I was the commissioner that talked with Mr. Halfhill, and I left the decision in his hands. He said he would take care of it. So I didn't make an executive decision or anything else. I left it to him, and he called Mark, and they decided what was best to do.
Okay, well, I know y'all are going to pay it back, but the TDC still has to look at it because this is going to go on at 4th of July, Labor Day, Memorial Day. It's going to go on every big holiday, and it's going to go on all summer. So as long as we have let people go down there, everybody is going to throw their trash down. And a few people walking the beach and in some trucks for the county, they took 3 dumpsters of stuff out the first day. So we've got to come to grips with who is going to pay to clean all the beaches. But when you do, you're going to have Sandestin knocking at the door and Rosemary Beach knocking at the door and Seaside coming. And so you can't do for one what you don't do for everybody. But I think all of us bed tax collectors would have felt better had it been done out in the open. And it hadn't been something that you just get a phone call one night saying get a public records request. The other thing is, I hope that whatever investigation y'all are going to do, I hope that for the employee's sake, that you have a number for each employee rather than a name. And only the person doing the investigation knows which number goes to which employee. Now that's the way I've always seen HR investigations done. This is a disgrace that all of the employees at the TDC that signed sworn statements as to what went on the investigation of the director. All of those statements are posted online in chat rooms. They're being passed around. They're being emailed all over everywhere. Those people put their job and their family's reputation and their reputation on the line to tell the truth and sign a sworn statement. And this is something that has gotten out all over everywhere, and it is a public record, and I am all for public records. And when people talk about going into work 2 hours early to dump records, boy, believe me, you better not buy a new hard drive. You better keep the hard drives, and you better come up, because this is a public records request right now. Anything that's been deleted on any TDC computer, I want a copy of it. Now, we just can't have this go on. We've got to get it together, and we got to run this county like a business. And we cannot just go out and pay $500 a day to clean one beach. We can't have people saying they're done up in public records. I don't care about the sex talk. I don't care about any of the other stuff in those investigations. The public records, I care about. And if they're dumping records, that is not right. And I'm asking y'all to please appoint tonight somebody to help the TDC. The council sits up there and goes, we're just advisory. We don't have any charge. Well, you have liability when you don't know that these funds are being spent and it's public and it's TDC bed tax money being spent on private property. So everybody has some liability in this. And I'm just asking that y'all get a plan and pay back the TDC, and then when Memorial Day comes in May, you better figure out another way to clean that beach.
Ms. Harris, let me just a couple of things. First of all, I had, as you may or may not know, the last meeting I asked the board for authorization to contact a labor relations firm for this investigation as it relates to the county administrator and some questions I had about the TDC investigation. One of the questions I'm asking and waiting on an answer is whether we can do just exactly what you suggested in a public entity context, and that's assign a number or something to these folks who've made these complaints to protect their identity. I haven't got an answer to that yet, but I have asked that question. Secondly, As I understand it, those records have not been lost. We have that fail-safe, thanks to you, quite frankly, from a previous lawsuit, that there might have been an attempt, but apparently the attempt did not succeed, as I understand the current state of the technology. I think Mr. Alford and his folks for that. And thirdly, again, this stuff about cleaning this beach was approached to me as a question, could you do it as an emergency item? And that was the answer I obviously gave, because I still believe.
That's okay. It just put one of the TDC employees in a bad position because he signed the contract.
I understand it. I wasn't aware that's where they were going to go seek the funds. We can fix that problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Next, we go to the Dicey.
Is Mr. Carpenter here?
Yes, he is.
Mr. Carpenter. Councilman Carpenter. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Welcome to the world of public scrutiny.
I will read it.
Mike, you can come on up here right now.
Yeah.
See how this is trying to use.
Bob Campbell is the new mayor. Yeah, Bob Campbell is the new mayor. Anybody interested?
Who's the new mayor?
Bob Campbell, 361, Matt Work, 335, and John Kinsey, 77. Matt Carpenter, 395. Way to go.
Where's the champagne?
Mr. Chairman, we have 5 items on the agenda tonight, and we have 4 that are quasi-judicial, and the last one is legislative, so I'll send we to be sworn in. Mark?
Yes, we do. Anyone who anticipates testifying before the board, would you please stand up and raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And when you come to speak, just say your name, so we'll have a record. And I have to ask the commission if any of you had any ex parte contacts with anyone concerning any of these items.
Oh, yeah, I did. I know to sign some
I
stuff.
passed mine down.
Okay, very good, thank you. And you do not believe this will prevent you or would prevent you from hearing this matter fairly and equitably?
Will not prevent me.
Thank you.
And I need to fill something out. Who has the form?
I didn't bring my book, so I don't have extra.
Oh, were they in the front?
No, I always keep an extra for that.
I forgot to take that.
Mr. Chairman, the first item on our agenda is the Miramar report. This is an item that we are requesting to be continued. After looking at this, the homeowner association that has recently been incorporated does not match that which is on the plat. And so because of that, we are asking this to be continued until the next meeting? The next meeting, which is there.
September 23rd at 9 a.m. at the PDN courthouse.
I will make that motion.
Second. Any on motion, say it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'll ask Mr. Carpenter to come up and present the next 3 items.
I think you should start referring to him as his honorableness.
That's right, honorable Matt Carpenter.
Thank you, Matt Carpenter for the Planning Department. Next item is Small Scale Amendment 2012-11. This is one that's been continued from previous meetings, and the applicant has selected a new land use category, and they're here to present.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Darrell Barnhill of Barnhill, representing Dr. Michael O'Donnell on the, excuse me. If you allow me, I know the hour's late, but for housekeeping purposes, I need to give you a real brief history of this site, and brief being the operative word. Back in 2000, the previous commission decided to change the land use on the adjacent parcel to the north from conservation residential to light industrial. In that land use change, they specifically pointed out that it was compatible. And for record purposes, I don't believe you've got that. I would like to submit both that land use change ordinance and a copy of the subsequent plat that was approved by the commission that reflects the light industrial use and the plat. To the clerk. Also, too, those of you that are familiar at all with the area, subsequent to that land use change and plat, the county commissions went and granted 14 development orders along that road, along Commercial Parkway, which is immediately adjacent and north to us. What I'd like to do is to, again, submit for the record the applicant's Exhibit C. It is a record, if you're familiar with that area at all, indicating all the businesses that are along Goldsby Road. Topsail Warehouse, Neocrete, American Grills, Grill Parts, Custom Woodworking, Carter Craft, Roofing, Jeffco Air Conditioning, Showtime Events, Carpet Master, Construction Solutions, and MediaCom. That being said, last October, we took our proposal to your Planning Commission and asked them for consideration for light industrial. At that Planning Commission, they gave a favorable recommendation to our request and recommended to you that you support, that you change the land use from conservation residential to light industrial. Again, let me present a copy of that as applicant Exhibit D to the clerk. Since that time, we have spoken with the adjacent property owners, and they had a great concern over the things that could be done within a light industrial use, and I can understand that. So as a compromise and trying to be good neighbors, which Dr. O'Donnell is, we changed our request from light industrial to commercial, therefore taking out any industrial use on the site at all. Secondly, we proposed that the easternmost 135 feet adjacent to the parties that had the concerns, that remain as conservation residential. And as you know, there's no commercial, industrial, or any business that can be conducted in conservation residential. So in short, we're asking you to accept the recommendation of your Planning Commission, pared down. We're asking you to accept our request for commercial use instead of light industrial use. And we believe we've demonstrated that we're trying to be good neighbors and providing more buffering that's required, more non-commercial use than may be required. And I know the hour's late, and with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? You have comments?
I was not sworn, I was not sworn in, but I didn't know I was going to have a question.
Why don't go ahead, just, you solemnly swear to affirm the testimony about to give the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
Daryl, are you talking about general commercial or neighborhood commercial? When you say commercial, which one are you talking about?
General commercial, because we believe that's compatible to the, as closest to the light industrial, which is adjacent to us, but takes out all the industrial component of any kind.
My only question about that is, and I wasn't prepared, my only question about that is in general commercial is geographically restricted.
Anita, did you state your name?
Yeah, Anita Page, I'm sorry.
I hope you got that or not.
Does this meet without a land use change, without a text amendment change to the comp plan, general commercial is restricted to, in Southwall, 98 and 331. Pretty sure I'm right about that.
Yes, ma'am. In fact, Commissioners, just for point of reference, in the findings in the staff report, the proposed amendment of the adopted future land use map from conservation residential to conservation residential / general commercial is not consistent with Walton County Comprehensive Plan. So, and that's what I think Anita's talking about.
I think you would have to have a text amendment to change that.
Sure. May I respond?
Yes, go ahead.
We anticipated that question, and The staff pointed out, as you say, in the narrative of the SSA 21211, they particularly put in there that phrase, repealing all ordinances in conflict. And so we're asking you to grant this change, and we'll work with the staff to correct that issue. We believe this is the best use of the property out there, and as you know, if you know the area, you know that that is a commercial area. It's just that simple.
Yes, sir. Point of clarification, when Mr. Barnhill said the Planning Commission recommended approval 4-1 on October 11th, 2012, that is true. However, he failed to read the rest of the staff report where it indicated that there was a companion large-scale amendment, text amendment to change the criteria, locational criteria in the light industrial category. This board subsequently decided not to entertain a change in that particular category. So that invalidates the Planning Commission's recommendation for approval. Mr. Davis is correct. The requested category does not meet the locational criteria, and the idea that we have standard language as part of the title of an ordinance where, as he referred to, that was not our intent to recommend changes.
Can I, go ahead. I do, no, I'm sorry, no, I was just gonna, I do need to give you some. This is one of those land use amendments that I've looked at and staff has looked at, and I've worked with the neighbors on it. The issue here is there were previous projects approved that did not comply with the land use plan, and they're light industrial, and so they're already located there. And so this piece of property is next to one of them. And so the piece of property has been rendered, you know, in my opinion, part of it has been rendered unusable as residential. And when we took a look at this, we said, well, it's either going to end up in court or in some kind of a settlement because of a mistake that somebody in the past made, either on the board or in staff. They didn't catch the fact that there was locational language for the industrial, and they approved these projects all up and down Goldsby Road. So the situation we're faced with now is a piece of land that has been, you know, it's next to industrial. And so Daryl and his client said that in an effort to work around everyone, including the previous mistakes that the county made and the residents, that they would leave part of the back parcel as C2-1. They would leave it the current land use, and they would go with a lesser land use of C2 on the balance of the property. And I just wanted to lay that scenario out for you in what a kind of a quagmire that they have found themselves in. We tried to, they wanted to change, the staff came forward and said, well, let's do a text amendment for the industrial, but that affected the entire South Walton, so that was withdrawn. But they're still in this situation where they have a piece of property that's really been made unusable for residential, maybe part of it, by a previous mistake by the county. So I just will lay all that out for you to kind of give you the background, and maybe Mark can shed some more light on this. But and I know the neighbors are concerned about what's going to go, you know, on the west side of their property, and we'll let them, you know, speak as well. But this, and I normally do not get involved in these to this extent, but I've been trying to work with the owners and the applicant, because both of them had a good argument, and Mr. Barnhill had a good argument, and the planning department had a good argument, so we're in a situation now where, legally, I don't know what to do.
It is a conundrum to some extent. We have a provision in our comprehensive plan, which I'm not sure we even understand, that essentially says if somebody relies on past action of the board, then they can continue to rely on past action of the board, whether it's consistent or inconsistent with the plan. That's a gross generalization of what it says, but that is out there. But this proposal, I have to advise the board, does conflict with the comprehensive plan, and does not, and Ms. Page is exactly right, it would require text amendment.
Can I just say one more?
Sure.
One more thing on that? I'm sorry. Isn't this basically the same thing that we have that you're going to be considering tonight
For the adoption hearing, kind of the same scenario, where you had neighborhood commercial in that instance, and the comprehensive plan had neighborhood commercial in certain areas, but then it turned out that it made sense that it ought to be in these other areas as well, because historically that had been how the area had developed. And so tonight you're considering an adoption hearing to do a text amendment to expand the locational criteria of neighborhood commercial. What's the problem with doing a text amendment?
And Grayton.
What's the problem with doing it? Yeah, I'm just using that as a
text
comparative.
amendment
What's the
form.
problem with doing a text amendment, and then just getting everything?
For what? For a text amendment for what? For
To
this particular location?
Yeah.
See, I didn't realize you could do.
That's what you're doing in neighborhood commercial.
I didn't realize you could do that.
That's what you're doing in neighborhood commercial down here in the legislative
Yeah,
number
I did
5.
see that, but I did not realize that you could text amendment a particular area in or out. I mean, that wasn't one of the options that was considered.
I mean, that's my only concern, is it's just,
Oh,
it's just violating.
I know, I agree.
The locational criteria without a text amendment.
I agree, but in lieu of them coming forward and saying, well, you've damaged me, and we were trying to work it out without, but I understand, yeah, it's true.
And it is a conundrum, sir, where, I have been out in the I happen to know where it is, but I already used to live in that neighborhood, and what's out there now, what I've seen, I guess you can call it industrial. It's kind of when I think of industrial, I think of smokestacks. I mean, these are very quiet, like storage places and stuff. I mean, it's, that's in that neighborhood. I feel, for the neighbors, I'm certain they don't want, like a lot of noise going on, but on the other hand, we've got a man who's bought a piece of property, relied on it, and everywhere surrounding him is commercial, or industrial, or whatever you want to call it. So I don't know what we have to do, whether we amend it or we add or whatever, but I think the man needs to be able to use his property.
Mr. Chairman, if you recall, I guess it was last year, this originally came as light industrial. We had prepared a text amendment to remove some locational criteria. That was, I think some felt, and rightly so, that would open up a lot of areas that probably weren't suitable for light industrial, able to open those up. And so, going back and researching that issue for industrial, I went all the way back to the trust plan, which was sort of the genesis of the comprehensive plan. And in the trust plan, it said industrial areas would be in two areas. I think it was mentioned east and west in South Walton. Because of that language, that's why I had hesitation moving forward with that text amendment to remove the locational criteria for the light industrial, because it seems like that the very beginning, the very genesis of the comprehensive plan was based off of that, and you saw very similar language. For commercial, I'm not aware of anything that would prevent us from creating a text amendment if the board so wishes to remove that locational criteria or modify the locational criteria to allow places like this that have been previously developed under various means to comply. So if that's the board's direction, we would be glad to do that and prepare those amendments.
That would make a lot of sense, because we could make the approval condition upon the approval of the text amendment. And that way,
Well, let me ask you this too, but we're going to get the same spot we were before with, general commercial is only now allowed, the intersections of 98 and 339 or something?
Yes, ma'am. I believe the general commercial and light industrial had very similar, if not the same, locational criteria.
So how would you do that unless you modified that? But I mean, there's just, I studied this whole. I mean,
I'm trying to think outside the box a little bit. Could the text, and I'm really thinking outside the box here, could the text amendment be specific location? That we would allow commercial along a certain length of Goolsby Road?
I think as long as it's written into the comp plan language, I don't know that would be, I think that would be probably something that would be
But I think
doable.
that for this particular site, since it does abut, residential, that there should be, a buffer. And whether it's, how much do you have there now, Daryl, an acre?
Approximately, yes.
Whether it's an acre or 2 acres, I'd like to see 2 acres actually personally, but, because I think that would, assure the residents that, and then, so, I'd be fine with that if we could isolate it to, a location.
Yes, ma'am, we could clearly delineate a boundary between the commercial and the residential, so they don't start, you don't have to creep into the residential areas. We could definitely do some sort of line of demarcation, so we're clear where that will begin and end. We can definitely do that.
That's a very specific thing to have in a comp plan that I don't think.
I think that this case probably dictates something like that. It has to be,
Is there anybody here tonight that border to the east?
They do, this group of people.
And I guess my question to y'all is, since they've discussed increasing the buffer from either 1 acre or 2 acres, how do y'all feel about it?
Two agree.
Because the way the land is laid out now, it's really only a half an acre from the end of our street to where the commercial property would begin. And when you pace it off, it's not very much.
So would your client, Daryl, be able to do that, or?
Y'all want to discuss it, and I'll go outside and discuss it.
Well, I don't need to discuss it, I can stand up and speak when they're done speaking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give you my opinion.
Okay. Who's going to get up and speak?
Yeah, you need, we need, she needs y'all's name.
Okay.
She needs y'all's name.
My name's Loretta Butelman, and I'm a homeowner on Preston Path. The little bit I had prepared pretty much has just been hashed over, but we see what's happening as a step in the right direction, but when it comes right down to it, also we don't really see the need for commercial zoning off 98 when you've got it along 98 with things like Walmart. However, we think that 2 acres would be appropriate for the very reason that it will give us a little bit more in width to not have our property values hopefully affected. It'll give us much more confidence in that. So 2 acres. Oh, and by the way, whoever said that industrial park, the industrial parkway is quiet, 7 o'clock it starts at well, Jim can tell you more, but the forklifts start beeping and there's quite a bit of noise.
Good evening. My name is Jim Smith. I live in the last house in the subdivision. So unfortunately for me, I'm right next to the 10 acres that belongs to Dr. O'Donnell. The light industrial that currently exists, and the businesses' names were read to you before, I only know the first one personally because 6:30, 7 o'clock every morning, the big doors come up, the forklifts start beeping, and it's just an everyday thing. My dog wakes up by the forklifts every morning. And so that's one thing we're living with. And so commercial parkway, whether it was a mistake years ago or not, that's irrelevant to me. It exists. And I don't want the next 10 acres that's next to it becoming possibly the same thing. I mean, our homes are approximately valued $400,000 to $600,000. There's 9 of us there. And we're unanimous in this, and we've presented our signatures to you in the past, and that's all we ask is that we be treated fairly with a buffer in the 2 acres that Cindy just mentioned. That would be doable for me personally. I can't speak for all 9, but that would be agreeable to me. Thanks.
Thank you.
Theodore Batchman. I live at the end of Preston Path, which is down the far end there to the east, right off West Hewitt Road. I'd point out the one in the area that's light industry there, you've already got a conservation area equivalent to what is being proposed, 1 acre. At my end of the block, I can hear the beeping at 6:30 in the morning. And that's quite a ways away. So it's not quite quiet industry. Light industry is not quiet if you're trying to sleep. And I'd invite you to come to my house and stay overnight and listen to it if you would like to. So I would strongly support the 2 acres as being a minimum, no matter what's been done in the past. But we're going to be a housing area in the middle of commercial light industry. And I bought my house 3 years ago with the idea, and when Dr. O'Donnell bought his property, it was residential. Now we're trying to change it. What good's it do to a person coming in to look at the land use map if it's going to change on you all the time? So I hope you'll consider the 2 acres. Thank you.
Anyone will have to like to speak?
Yes. I'm Michael O'Donnell, the property owner. Thanks for the opportunity.
Are you sworn in?
No.
Just raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before the board will be the truth.
Yes. I just wanted to present this to you because I think it shows a clear picture of the site. I did a little aerial photo, and this photography shows you exactly where this parcel sits in relation to one home and all the industrial area around it.
Is that only one copy?
Yeah, if on the one page, the only thing that's relevant really is the front page.
We'll hand it back to you.
The white boxed in area is our 10-acre parcel. A couple points that I want to make. We are trying to work with our neighbors. We think that the best use for our property is industrial use of some sort or light commercial. This all started because we started a hydroponic farm at Seaside. Project went over well, and it's a lot of interest, and we were growing. So the next step, we wanted to expand it. So we looked for a lot, and we found this 10-acre parcel. So we acquired the property with the intention that we were going to expand our hydroponic farm. We tried to put up a metal building to have an area for our shed, basically, for all of our equipment. And we found out that we needed a primary residence on the property when we went to the county, so we couldn't get a building permit. So then the next step is, well, you guys need to change that property to light industrial, was the suggestion, because that's what we're surrounded by. So we went down that path. And we found out that we're stuck in this catch-22 because this property, which is located in an industrial area, may not fit that requirement because of the designation of the road. So in trying to accommodate everybody, we offered to leave the 1 acre that abuts the neighborhood next to us alone, which I feel is my property, and I can appreciate that Mr. Smith has that home there, but I can also appreciate that there's a property line, and my property starts on the other side of that line. And the thing is, by us offering that 1 acre of a buffer, that puts anything that I could possibly do on that property that would interfere with him further away than the existing industrial park. And the existing industrial park was there when he purchased his house. And if there's a concern about property values, which I heard, Mr. Smith bought his home in foreclosure, which I'm sure severely affected all the property values of everyone in his neighborhood because of the price that he was able to acquire that house for. So anyway, I just want him to see the perspective of the big picture. The other thing is, if you look at that aerial photo, at the end of that neighborhood's street, there's a cul-de-sac, and there's a wooded area it's designated, I don't know what the term is, but it's preservation area of some sort, so the neighborhood can't ever have houses built on the property that abuts up to my neighborhood or my property. The only property with a home on it that could ever have a home is Mr. Smith's. The only person that would ever even see what was going on my property is Mr. Smith's, so I don't see how it affects the other 9 homes. But anyway, and I wanted to be able to answer any questions if anybody specifically wanted to ask me.
So would you be willing to go with the 2 acres because of the noise and the light pollution and the?
Absolutely not. I feel like I'm overextending by offering an acre of my property to not be touched. And like I said, even if I give an acre of buffer, that still puts my property, the commercial component of our property, further away from the existing industrial park, light industrial park, which has a more severe impact as far as noise and whatnot, that those neighbors bought into. They bought into that.
I think that the 2 acres is a good compromise because I can't support, unless you do the 2 acres, I can't support the proposal. I mean, I live next to some noisy things too, and it is C1, it is conservation residential 2-to-1, and, I will be voting against it unless we can come to some kind of amenable position. So 2 acres is is where I would like to see it. I don't know what the rest of the board is thinking, but I think it's a very good compromise for everybody. You can do what you want to do on that parcel, which you said was put your storage buildings for all your toys and such, your cars and boats and stuff. And so that's, to me, another 100 or so feet is not really, but it is for me. It will kill the deal for me well, not the deal, it's not a deal, but it will kill my support of it unless it's 2 acres. But it's your choice because you're the applicant.
Okay.
I'm going to ask a question. You're going to do hydroponic farming.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I'd like to do on the property.
One of the things? Because if I remember from my biology days, they're grown in a greenhouse upside down. So how big is this building going to be? Is there going to be a lot of heavy equipment, or is it,
It's actually, if you haven't seen the aquaponic farm over at Seaside, it doesn't have to be in a greenhouse. I imagine I would eventually like to put a greenhouse out there. But it's actually just a garden. Instead of putting the plants in the ground, we're putting it in the water. And the issue we've run into with the land use of our property is that we want to put a metal building in there to put our equipment in. I need a tractor on the property, and I can't do that because it's a residential property and there's not a primary residence. So that's what this is all turned into. And the other thing I want to mention, the homeowner, Jim Smith, has put all these things out there saying that that the owner of the property has gone so far as already sold the property. He's told people that I have a contract to sell the property, and that's why I have the pressure to get this land use change. I've also heard rumors that I'm putting in a meat packing facility, and I came here tonight to clarify with everybody that that's not the case. And to address your point, Ms. Meadows, I don't think it's fair for me to give up 20% of my property because one neighbor who is on a very small little section abutting my property has an issue with it, especially since the fact that the neighboring area right next to me is light industrial, which is a stronger category, and all that is going on.
I know, which is why I suggested because you don't meet the comp plan right now. The land use you're proposing does not meet the comp plan, and we couldn't approve it. We really can't approve it. So I think it's probably a moot point at this point. So because you're not only abutting just one house, it's a neighborhood, and noise carries, and pollution carries, and things like that. So it's just incompatible with that. But I think a 2 acre buffer would mitigate that and we could go forward with some kind of another kind of amendment, but I'm not willing to make a motion to that effect because.
Well, I'm not sure what has changed, Ms. Meadows, from today and when we met at your office, because when we met and you proposed that we offer a 1 acre buffer zone that we don't change.
No, I never said 1 acre. I said propose a large enough buffer, and then the next thing I know, it's a 1 acre buffer. I never said what kind of buffer. I just said propose a buffer, but this to me is not enough. So, and it's not up to me to tell you at a meeting. I could,
Well, we actually were
And
trying
so
to
y'all were gonna-
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but when we sat down and said, how do we rectify this problem? Because this
And
parcel is not suitable for a
and I
residential
suggested-
neighborhood. And we suggested that we leave one section of this property, which was clearly an acre when we spoke, but.
No,
Okay,
no.
well, so we said, leave it alone, and we left there with a very specific plan to go put the plan together.
No, I said, change your legal description and come out with a reasonable buffer, and that's then I see this, it's 1 acre. So I would like to see 2 acres, or I wouldn't be able to support it.
Well, I can't donate 20% of the property, so I apologize for that, but I think 10% is more than fair, and what I would ask for is that I get 3 commissioners' votes to support what I'm trying to do with my property that is certainly within reasonable use of all the surrounding areas, so that's what I would ask.
You still have to get a text amendment. It has to be, gone through a text amendment, so, you still don't, even if 3 approved tonight, you still have to go through a text amendment, and that has to be voted on as well, so, it's your decision. You can decide what to do, but that's kind of where we're at, I think.
Actually, I think it's our decision if we could, get to it.
Yeah, well, they've got a gentleman back here who wants to speak.
Yeah.
Let's bring him back.
Theodore Batchman again. Hydroponic farming is agricultural. Wouldn't it make sense to zone it agricultural?
That's what I suggested, and they didn't want that. They wanted light industrial because they wanted the uses that were included in light industrial I suggested that.
So,
Yeah.
to me, that says the argument of hydroponic is just a precursor to putting something else in. Because otherwise agriculture would make sense.
Yes, Ms. Page?
That's what I was wondering the exact same thing, because general commercial is not a whole lot different from light industrial, actually. I did finally find my land development code. Department stores, hospitals, LP gas storage, outdoor arenas, shooting and firing ranges, mini warehouses, plant nurseries, recreational trailer parks, shopping centers, taverns, bars, lounges, dance halls, theaters, auditoriums. That's general commercial. Because everybody thought of it being on 31 or 98.
Right.
I mean, it's almost, I don't know what land use it really needs to fit into. And this is where I wish we had zoning, frankly. Because the problem is, whatever you change the land use to, here is this whole menu of potential developments, where if he had the opportunity to say, look, all I want to do is this, and it was zoned
warehouse or something,
that,
warehouse, you could say,
Yes, then the neighbors have clarity, the developer has clarity, and you don't have this specter of, well, he may be asking for this, but if he were to sell the property or change his mind, he can do all of this, potentially, once it's general commercial. I just want to put in a plug for looking at that issue at some point, because I think that will eliminate a lot of these types of concerns.
Okay.
Is there no other land, does staff have any other ideas of land uses that would be more appropriate?
They all have locational criteria, it's in VMU and they all have locational criteria, and they want something in they want something in the industrial / kind of genre. They didn't want the neighborhood anything. Go ahead.
It seems to me that the case on Goolsby Road, this area is located, we have a lot of uses that have been there for a long period of time that are most likely non-conforming, which again creates a whole other set of issues with non-conformities. If you look at the intent of non-conformities, the intent is that they'll eventually go away, but in this case, there's so many there. It's question, that sort of defeats the purpose of the non-conformity clauses you have in land development codes and things of that nature. So it's definitely a difficult issue.
If y'all want to entertain a motion, I'm ready to make one.
Any other public comments?
I will move that, I think 2 acres is a good compromise, so I will move that we deny the request as proposed because it doesn't meet the comp plan.
Have a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. That's the board's wishes.
I don't know how to go about making the motion. We've heard so much here. Mr. Dice, can you help about amending just that,
I think if we're going to change the locational criteria, that's going to be a text amendment and a large-scale amendment, which is going to take a little more time than it's going to take, probably 4 to 5 months to get that done. So if you were going to approve something like this, you'd have to approve it contingent upon that text amendment going through, much like we did before. And so I would think that if it's the board's desire to approve this small scale, contingent upon the text amendment to the locational criteria, that's something that I think would probably work. And I'll ask Mr. Davis his help if he sees it differently.
I mean, you can do that. I mean, I don't know that there's anything necessarily illegal about doing that. Now, the question about whether that's a good policy or not is not mine.
Yeah, we decided that we weren't going to do that. We decided that we weren't going to do that anymore because what people do is they say, well, I've got a pending amendment. You got to approve this because I've been in waiting with my pending amendment for a year. That's what happened last time.
Right.
So it's not good. It's not a good planning policy to kind of promise somebody something contingent on something that you really can't promise them.
That's very true.
I'll be willing to step down.
I'm stepping down and make a motion.
If we don't approve this, approve the 2 acre buffer. Is that good? I mean,
Okay, yeah.
that's good.
Okay,
Well,
yeah. I'll second that. I'll second that. Yeah,
Compromise, an acre and a half.
yeah, I'll approve that.
Acre and a half.
You got a motion second?
Oh, you have a motion second?
What is
I made a motion for instead of a 1 acre buffer, you have 2 acre buffer.
Approve it, general commercial with the 2 acre buffer.
You
And
can make that
then,
8 acres to work with.
and then go ahead with the large scale amendment.
Yes, sir.
Make sure we're clear. Approving it with a 2 acre buffer on the north side of the property.
On the east side.
East side, okay. Okay. Make sure we're
With
clear.
the large scale amendment included.
With the large scale amendment, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So am I here, just make sure I'm clear, do you want staff to, I guess I know that would be a separate issue, but we want staff to move forward with preparing a large-scale text amendment and bring it back to you as quickly as possible. We can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Yeah, I seconded it, yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion dies, so,
Okay. You want,
How many?
can we
well, there were
compromise?
three, yeah, 1, 2,
An
3
acre and a half.
days. And the increment.
3 days?
We got 3 nays, yeah.
Nay.
Yeah, we got 3 nays.
Yeah, yeah.
No, yeah. Can we compromise with, this is like playing poker. Can we compromise with an acre and a half? That gives you a little more property and it still gives them another half acre buffer.
I ask for
you
you
to
guys
do-
to make a vote whether you support it or you don't. I've offered to donate 10% of the property basically to keep it residential. Can I either get your support or not? I'll have you
Well,
vote
we
on
can't,
it.
we can't support it because it doesn't meet the comp plan. So we would have to do a large scale amendment to it. And without, this, I don't know. Go ahead, Sarah, if you want to make a motion.
I don't know what to do at this point.
Well, if I hear the applicant correctly, Dr. O'Donnell, you're just asking the board at this point to either
Turn it
approve as
down.
proposed or not approve as proposed, is that correct?
You don't want any compromise.
But still,
I mean,
it would still have to come back for a text amendment for us to consider at a later point.
If you approve it, it's my opinion, you're gonna have to have a text amendment, so it'd be
Okay,
consistent
so
with
this,
Congress.
so while this is just step one
Right.
in the approval process.
But I would make the approval contingent upon the approval of a text amendment. You
Okay.
may, when you get to the point of a text amendment, you may not want to do that for whatever.
And then it would not go forwards?
That's correct.
But you have to understand that if the text amendment doesn't get approved, then, you know, your project, then you'll be behind another 6 months, 9 months, something like that, so.
versus if I was to say whatever you're proposing, an acre and a half.
Yeah. Wouldn't that speed it up, sir? If we compromise to an acre and a half?
I'm a little confused on why
How
an
do you
acre
confused too?
is different than 2 acres.
Let me be clear, maybe I haven't.
Yeah.
If you're going to approve this particular project, it's
Yeah.
my opinion that you're going to need a text amendment no matter what, because this project does not comply with your comprehensive.
So we're gonna need a text amendment, we know that, but as to whether or not, we're talking about the buffer. Apparently, we're not gonna approve it without a buffer of some sort.
That's correct.
So it's down to an acre, 2 acres, or an acre and a half. So, you know, I'm proposing, this side wants an acre, this side wants 2 acres. Let's compromise, people, an acre and a half, and move on. And get the text amendment that you need to do what you need to do, and it protects their neighborhood.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
I make that motion, whatever I said, whatever I said.
Yours is, motion is an acre and a
An
half,
acre and a
with
half.
subject
With
to.
subject to the text amendment, the amendment, the approval of the text amendment, yes.
Second.
Commissioner Grant, and this is for the commercial, right? The general
Yes, sir.
commercial? Okay.
I have made that motion, I have a second.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries.
And I want to be clear, again, you're not bound to approve it.
Right,
Yeah.
Right.
but we're moving forward.
Council said the same thing over in this other one.
Council, you ready? You ready, council?
Yes, sir. Commissioners, Matt Carver to the Planning Department. By the way, I'm not giving up my day job.
Yeah, I think I know what the salary is, I don't think you can afford to give up your
In
day
spite of
job,
the blog rumors. The next item is a small-scale amendment 2012-12. The applicant is Gilbert Zeal. This is the exact same request on the opposite side of the street, just a little bit further north.
Yeah, this particular one does not have residential adjacent. It's surrounded by,
There is, it does touch on one corner.
oh, does it? Where?
Let's see here.
Which corner?
It'd be the northwest corner diagonally.
Touches on what? C conservation?
I think we've got neighborhood infill and small neighborhood up there.
Is there anything there?
Conservation residential.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sure, yeah.
I don't think it's developed yet.
That's the site.
Yeah, it's this one, yeah. So you got it, yeah.
Aren't we in the same situation as was on the last one? It's not.
Yep.
It's exactly the same. It's a little further north on Goldsby Road, and it's on the west side of Goldsby Road as opposed to the east side.
Can we just cut to the chase and apply the same criteria?
Except we'd be looking at the buffer on the opposite end of it.
On the opposite, end, yes.
Am I correct that the residential abutment is at the northwest corner?
Yes, sir. So that any buffer would need to be on the western end of this particular parcel as opposed to the eastern end on the previous request.
But it would also need a text amendment. Are you asking for, or are you asking for the same thing, Daryl? Exact same thing?
Yes, this is the best piece in the county for commercial, an enclave parcel surrounded by state forest. To my knowledge, and Ms. Carpenter we've not heard any complaints, concerns, letters of objection but we still were proposing that buffer along the west side to be consistent. So we're asking you to change this one to general commercial and move ahead with the text amendment. Like again, to my knowledge, there's not been any objections to this at all.
Any further comments? Seeing none, what's the board wishes?
Somebody else have a listen.
How did you phrase your motion the last time?
How did I phrase my motion last time?
Acre and a half.
That we approve with an acre and a half on the contingency that, approval of the text amendment.
But I want to understood that the buffer is
An acre and a half.
an acre and a half on the west end.
Yes.
Okay, that's my motion.
Second.
Have a motion and second, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carried.
And again, I just want to be clear for the record that you are not committing yourself to approving any text amendments.
They won't come back again.
Yes, I'll come back.
Next item.
Maybe a chance to get some more facts.
Commissioners, the next item is the Donut Hall 2, and we're requesting that to be continued to the April 23rd BCC meeting at the North Walton Courthouse at 9 a.m.
That's four. Number four, you talking? What do you say, Matt?
We're requesting this item be continued.
That's number four.
This is item number 4, yes, sir.
Motion to approve the
Continuing.
yes.
Second.
Have a motion and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Commissioners, if I could direct you to item number 5. This is an adoption hearing for a large-scale amendment to amend comprehensive plan policy L-1.4.4 neighborhood commercial to provide an exception to the locational criteria to allow new neighborhood commercial designations on parcels adjacent to the east side of County Road 283, south of County Road 30A, and north of Pine Street, more commonly known as Defuniak Street in the Graydon Beach neighborhood. We did have a transmittal hearing a few months ago. We finally got all of our comments back and from the state agencies, and they've returned a no comment response. This particular amendment is supported by the neighborhood. You'll find a letter of support as Exhibit D. And again, this specifically affects lots in the Graydon Beach Trail subdivision. They were originally allowed a non-residential use along County Road 283.
Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Other comments?
I just have one comment to lay out. My name is Billy Bissett. I'm a property owner at Graydon Beach, and I have not been sworn in.
You saw this is
Cool, great. Yes, sir, I'm the one who wrote the letter. I own residential property adjacent to this property. I bought it 25 years ago knowing it would be neighborhood commercial. For people that wanted to put neighborhood commercial came to me, and I told them I'd give them my word that I would support it, and I have continually. I do want to emphasize for the record, and I have put it in writing, neighborhood commercial is not general commercial because of its nature being next to a house. It's more like a bakery, a professional office, and stuff like that. It's not a bar or anything like that. So I'll be back if it is a bar, but I do support those folks to be able to put in neighborhood serving commercial. And so again, I appreciate you considering this. Thanks for your work.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Commissioner, before we adjourn, I failed to mention when we were talking about the county administrator that he asked me to, as part of his resignation, to seek the permission to negotiate a exit agreement with him. I did not ask that. If you want me to do that, fine. If you don't, fine, but I need direction from him. I don't know exactly what he's seeking, but he was seeking something, so I'm just asking you if you want me to do that or not.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Adjourned.
That says it all.